Hello there, my name's Mohammed, and today I'm going to be talking about my personal history with video games. You might want to make sure you're comfortable sitting where you are because we may be here for a while. Before I start talking, I'd like to just say that the gameplay you'll be watching is from games that I have on the PS3, and I will be talking about a lot of games on the PC and the Wii, but unfortunately I'm not able to record gameplay for those games, so this will have to suffice. Regardless, let's get straight into it. The first game I ever remember playing was a game called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which obviously to today's standards sort of fails in comparison to games that we have today, like GTA 5, Bioshock Infinite. A list is too long to mention, so I won't, but you get the idea. But back when I was about 5 or 6, which I think I'm guessing that's the age I was when I played this game, it was definitely a very fun game to play. It was definitely a child's game. And it satisfied the basic needs for someone who wanted to just play a game, who's a little kid. And it was really sort of just a collection of sort of like mini games that kind of followed the story of the first film. But regardless, I had a lot of fun with it. I was a fan of Harry Potter, and I allowed to enjoy games that were set in that universe. But I also liked the game a lot because it's one of the few times that me and my sister have kind of sort of bonded through video games. It was one of the few times that we've ever sort of been able to, both enjoy a video game. And there's only a few games that have been able to kind of get my sister's interest, which I'll talk about later on. So that's the first game I ever remember playing. And I got a couple of sort of standalone titles like some Rayman games and like a Pirates of the Caribbean game, which I could talk about, but it's not really that significant for me personally. The next big step in my sort of gaming history was getting this thing called Star Wars: The Best of PC deal, which is basically 5 Star Wars games sort of put together and sold for one price. And the 5 games included were Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Republic Commando, Knights of the Old Republic, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Star Wars Empire at War. So Star Wars Battlefront, for those who don't know what it is basically a third-person / first-person action game where you basically get to like relive a lot of the battles from the films from episode 1 to episode 6. And it had a campaign mode where you basically play those story battles. You had like a quick match mode where you could just set up your own battles to fight, and there was also a multiplayer mode, but I never really got to play a lot of that. Unfortunately, I couldn't find people to play with. So yeah, back then it was definitely a good game, and I have played Battlefront 2 on my friend's Xbox 360, and the space combat in that game is awesome as well. But that's all I have to really say about Battlefront. The next game I mentioned, Star Wars Republic Commando, a great first-person shooter in my opinion. I am biased because I am a massive Star Wars fan. I still am a big Star Wars fan, and I love Star Wars games and stuff like that. So obviously I'm gonna say, it's a really good game, but in terms of it just being like a first-person shooter, it was really, really good. I think it came out like early 2000. It must have come out early 2000s. But basically, if you haven't played that game, it's sort of a combination of sort of Star Wars Battlefront with a first-person view and Halo, really. It had a lot of those characteristics. And, it was a great first-person shooter. It had, the basic mechanics in a first-person shooter, and that game worked really well. It had a lot of things going for it. It had really good, really interesting characters, a really good plot, really good level design, really good cinematics. I don't really know what to say. It had a lot going for it, and it was the first time that I ever sort of played a game set in the Star Wars universe where it was gritty and it was visceral and it was, I'm not going to say grounded in reality because it's near impossible to try and ground Star Wars into reality, but it was sort of the only game where Star Wars was sort of compatible with, something sort of realistic. You had things like blood and oil splatter across your visor and stuff. It really got you engaged in the story the opening cinematic is one of the best opening cinematics I think in any game I've played, and I recommend you try and watch it, and you can just make your own mind about it yourself. If you can try and look for the game. If you have an Xbox 360 or a PC, you can try and get a hold of it, like original Xbox version or on the PC as well. It shouldn't be that expensive. I don't know. It might be like a vintage game, so people might buy it for ridiculous amounts. I don't know, but it's definitely something that I think people should experience. The next game on the list was it Knights of the Old Republic? Very good role-playing game. Admittedly, I never got to play a lot of it because my computer would crash every time I played it, because it just couldn't perform. It just couldn't perform. That's the honest reason. I've heard that it's meant to have like one of the best like stories in a video game, and from what I've seen of it on like YouTube and stuff, I can definitely understand why. But I would very much like to experience it myself, and maybe one day I will. Because I had a lot of problems playing that game, it did kind of put me off role-playing games, just because it was a bit, just for lack of another word, boring, just sitting there and pressing a button to do an action rather than actually doing the action. So you move around, but if you want to like shoot lightning, you have to like click X and it takes up a turn. I didn't like that type of combat. But maybe if I play some more role-playing games, I might become accustomed to that type of game style, and you may see, I might end up liking strategy games again. But again, it'll only be a question of time before I get a chance to play that game again. Well, honestly, I don't know though. Next game was Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. One of the best games I've ever played, ever. No question whatsoever. I will not back down from this argument. One of the best games I've ever played. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Gonna have to explain myself. Great story, great characters, great level design, great multiplayer. It just engaged you, and it was, again, me being a Star Wars fan, I let myself get immersed in this universe. And basically, to quickly kind of explain the story, it's set after Episode 6, so the Empire, for all intents and purposes, has been defeated. But you've got the remnants of the Empire, called the Imperial Remnants, who kind of follow the leadership of this newly emerged Sith Lord called Lord Desan, who finds this source of like Force energy on what's the planet called? Yavin 4, I think. And he basically wants to try and reinstall the Empire and take control of it himself, using his manipulation of the Force to empower his minions and this crazy thing. And your character, who you play as, called Kyle Katarn, basically he encounters this Sith for the first time and he gets his ass handed to him, and he has to sort of reconnect with his own personal connection with the Force, and he has to go through the whole process of starting out as an apprentice and learning the ways of the Force again. But he also learns the dark side powers as well, so things like Force Grip and Lightning, which I always wanted from a game. I always wanted from a Star Wars game to play as a character who could actually do both. And it was so cool, and the mechanics worked so well, the way they handled that type of thing. You could like Force Grip people and throw them against walls. It wasn't to the massive extent that Star Wars: The Force Unleashed just went ham with Force powers and you could just destroy everything. But it was very good at that time, and I don't really know what else to say specifically. It was just a lot of things it did right. It's all the little details as well. Things like when you use a lightsaber, you could in the options you could enable or disable this thing called dismemberment. So when you slice a stormtrooper, you could cut their head off, or slice their arm off, or cut their legs off, or something. And obviously that sounds a bit sadistic. Obviously in real life that would be, but in the video game, especially in the Star Wars game, where you've got this weapon that is, in theory meant to slice through things, it just made it whole game even more engaging. And they had like animations, when you slice someone, you slice someone's arm off, they like reach for their recently lost arm and they just like grovel in pain and stuff like that. And that just made that game so much better, that they went to that sort of degree of detail. So obviously, I love that game, and again, I recommend that you at least try and look for gameplay of it. Or I mean, I've looked for copies and prices of that game, and they're dirt cheap. They're like a few pounds, and I mean, I'm sure they can play on someone's laptop now. So feel free to look for it, and it's definitely worth getting, I think. And the last game that was on that list, was it Empire at War? Very good strategy game, got me introduced to strategy, and I love that ability to kind of micromanage troops and level up factories and things like that. And they had this thing where during battles you could press this button that enabled this cinematic view, and it just made everything look so much more awesome. And it worked so well when you had space battles and you saw just like dozens of Star Destroyers just destroy this rebel base in space. It was so cool. And especially when you use the Death Star laser beam, it's so cool when you get to that level. When you get to a certain level of upgrading your space station, you can use the Death Star as a weapon. So a very good game as well. So those are really the main games I should mention that I've played on the PC, and now I need to talk about games that I played on the Wii. About 5 years ago, on Christmas, my mum got me a Nintendo Wii and got me a couple of games with it as well. The main ones being, things like Wii Sports, and I don't know whether it's called Wii Games or Wii Party. I think it's Wii Party. They were very fun, and obviously, I mean, the Wii doesn't have the graphical qualities of, an Xbox 360 and the PS3, but I think that was beside the point. I think its main objective was to have fun with games, and the games that were available on the Wii, I definitely had a lot of fun with. So like I said, a lot of sort of party games that, I played with my sister and played with friends when they came around every now and then. And they definitely did their job very well. They were very fun to play. A key game I think I have to mention was Mario Kart, which again is one of the few games that my sister and I kind of bonded through, and obviously that makes it a very important game for me personally. I've got a couple of sort of other games that I want to mention briefly. I got a couple of Sonic games, and I wasn't that much of a Sonic fan. But I got the games anyway because it's a very popular icon in gaming, and I just thought, well, why not try and get some of these games? And I had a lot of fun with them. They were very good fun. I think the two main ones were like Sonic and is it Magic Rings or something? I don't know. And then Sonic and the Black Knight. And I still haven't finished the boss mission of Sonic and the Black Knight. It's too hard. I'm sorry. And I got a couple of other games. I got Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, which on the Wii I have to commemorate the people who developed it for the Wii, because it was a genuinely different and worthwhile experience on the Wii. It wasn't for most games that are cross-platform and are on the Wii as well as PS3, Xbox 360, PC, whatever. What they tend to do with those games is they kind of downscale them, and then they just sort of put them out for the Wii. But it was actually developed differently for the Wii and took advantage of what it had. For instance, it actually is the only platform on which you could play multiplayer on, and was altogether designed differently in terms of the maps and level design of the single player. Some of the boss battles are actually much different as well in compared to the PS3 and Xbox 360 and PC version of the game. And that's why I respect LucasArts and the developers of that version of the game, because it made it a lot more than just sort of what is considered to be just like a God of War with a Star Wars mod on, which I'm glad. And it definitely made the Wii version of the game worthwhile, and arguably much more worthwhile than the other platforms. It was another game also that me and my sister kind of sort of united and played together with. At first she was a little bit hesitant to actually kind of like learn how to play, but I taught her eventually how to play, and she found it quite fun to like throw people into statues and have, buildings and stuff crumble and throwing debris at people. Well, when I say people, I mean me. But regardless, we had a lot of fun playing, and so I thank the developers for that game. That's really all I can say about the games on the Wii, and now I need to move on to the PS3. Now, there's one main series of games that I could not mention. I could not mention in this video, which is Call of Duty. I actually did start playing Call of Duty. I got introduced to it on the Wii. I played, I think it was COD 4 Reflex. It's called Call of Duty Modern Warfare Reflex Edition to make it sound like really cool, but it's literally just downscaled like version of COD 4. But it was definitely good fun. The single player, I loved the single player in that game, and it got me completely hooked to the rest of the series. And I basically transferred from the Wii to the PS3, and I got every Call of Duty from Modern Warfare 2 to Call of Duty Ghosts. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that kind of like the further the series has gone, the lower value the games have become. And I think it's just their approach has completely changed and altered. And it just doesn't, you know, I just don't have fun really anymore. I've been playing a lot of Modern Warfare 2 actually recently, obviously, to get hold of gameplay for this, and I've been having so much more fun. Even though there's a lot of things wrong with that game, at least it's fast paced and it's full of action, and I can actually get some streaks, which is always nice to actually do in a game, and I don't actually get that punished for running around. That's just my opinion. I have to say that my favourite Call of Duty is Black Ops. I think it was the best Call of Duty game. It's the best reiteration of Call of Duty since COD 4. And it was just because every aspect of that game was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. The single player was brilliant. I love the single player, I love the story. And I'm a bit upset that they kind of created a bastard child for Black Ops in the forms of Black Ops 2. Multiplayer was good. It had its problems. You got hit detection issues, some perk imbalance, with Ghost and stuff, and some, weapon balance, I think, for the most part, was fine. And map design, I love map design in that game. There's so many maps that I like in that game, and I'm happy that was one thing that they actually did right, and I hope that future Call of Duties actually kind of reproduce, because those maps are really good. And they encourage, not necessarily total rushing, but they support aggressive gameplay. You know, you don't have a building and then literally that looks all the way to the other side of the map. And the maps are interesting, and there's things that you were interacting with, and it was a lot of fun. And and zombies, obviously, can't forget zombies. A great fun experience, especially with friends. That was something that me and a couple of friends of mine kind of joined through. And yeah, that's really all I'm going to talk about for Call of Duty, because if I really wanted to, I could probably sit here for a long time talking about Call of Duty, but that's all I'll say for now. The next series that I should mention that I've got was a series of Assassin's Creed games. And I love Assassin's Creed. I have so much fun with Assassin's Creed. I'm waiting now to get hold of Assassin's Creed 4, and I'm waiting to get hold of it for the PS4. But it's just because I want to play it as well as it can be played right now. And I think the only Assassin's Creed game, apart from Assassin's Creed 4, that I haven't got is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which I don't think is really that big an issue, because it doesn't take that much out the story. I remember playing the first one I got was Assassin's Creed Revelations, which came with the original Assassin's Creed game, and I played the first Assassin's Creed, and it was like, wow, I loved the story. It was so fun, and it was so interesting, and I would dare say that it kind of acts as sort of like I don't know whether you can say it's social commentary, but it's some form of commentary, kind of looking at whether people should have complete power and rule over people if they're trying to improve their lives, or whether people should be allowed to have the freedom to make bad choices as well as good ones. And like I was playing Assassin's Creed Revelations, and there's a thing where Ezio is talking to like some woman called like Claudia or something, and they're talking about like the philosophy of the Assassin's Creed. And my mum came in and she heard them talking, and it was like, oh yeah, they've got some like existentialist kind of ideas cropping up. And I was kind of, her being the educated person she is, looking at those types of things and ideas, and it kind of made me laugh a little bit, because the game actually kind of got a little bit of respect, which probably in its own little way, makes the Assassin's Creed series kind of, personally significant. Because it actually kind of opened my mum's eyes a little, just a tad bit, enough to appreciate that there was more to games than just simply, going from A to B or killing a bunch of people or anything like that. And, I have to appreciate it for doing that. So thank you, Ubisoft, for making games that helped open my mum's eyes and realise that I wasn't just a little sadistic, sort of isolated freak that just liked watching pain and misery take place in a virtual reality. It's appreciated. And I do look forward to seeing what is done with Assassin's Creed 4, because it to a degree, is very much an open... I mean, Assassin's Creed 4 looks massive in terms of the world that you can play in, and I really look forward to see what is done with it. I definitely love the pirate setting, and it looks like it's going to be very interesting. I hope that the story is better. And they don't end it in as bad a way as they ended Assassin's Creed 3. I really hope they don't end it in that way, because that was a bit... I will not I will not talk further about the ending of that game. That was a complete dishonor to the series, in my opinion. But regardless, I have a lot of fun with the games. And like I said, I look forward to see what they do with Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flags. The next series of games I should probably mention is the Batman games, or the Batman series of games. I don't know what you really mention. I don't know how you refer to them. These are specifically Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. And Batman Arkham Asylum, I actually played on the PC, and I had a lot of fun with that game. That game was just cool. The game was awesome. It's so fun, and I love the Batman universe. I love the villains. I like Batman because he's cool, but I love the villains, especially like the Joker, Two-Face, the Riddler, and like all those enemies. And Dr. Freeze, I kind of like Dr. Freeze a bit. It was definitely good fun. And Arkham Asylum was just really good. But Arkham City, I don't know how Rocksteady... That is genius what they kind of did. Because they just took that game even further. And they made it so much better than Arkham Asylum. And it's so crazy because Arkham Asylum was already a really good game. But to the degree that Rocksteady took Arkham City to make it even better, it's ridiculous, because that game is so great and so fantastic. I do much prefer the open world setting. That's just my honest opinion. And I will wait again to get a hold of Arkham Origins on the PS4 once I get one, just because I don't want to get really any more games for the PS3. I want to just save up, because I know I want to get a PS4, and I know that there are games I want to get on the PS4. So I'm just gonna wait for that to happen. And the next series of games I should mention are the do I really count it? Do I really count? Yeah, I guess I have to. I mean, it's part of a series, but I only have one of them, which is Battlefield 3. And I got a friend of mine on YouTube. He introduced me to the game. He said you should get Battlefield 3 because it's really good, and I think you'd like it. And he was bloody right. And I mean, obviously the PC version in comparison to the current generation console versions of that game is much better, but it was a lot of fun to play on the PS3, especially with friends and when you play with a squad and stuff. And it was so dynamic, and it's the most liberated I've felt in a military first-person shooter, and I have to give it a lot of props for that. Because, that's kind of... I would consider that quite a hard thing to do, and yet have it still maintain interest throughout an entire match, which may take ages depending on what I'm playing. And, I mean, it may not look as good as it would on the PC, but it definitely wasn't... some people say, oh, it's ugly. It wasn't ugly. It wasn't like 20 pixels on the screen. There was some detail, And I loved the DLC as well. I loved how much effort was put into those series of games. And, I hear some bad things about Battlefield 4 from YouTubers who I know and who I like. But I hope that I hope the issues are resolved by the time I get Battlefield 4. on the PS4. I really hope they are, because I like that game. I like Battlefield 3, and I really want to like Battlefield 4 as well. And I hope that DICE do the series justice. The last series of games I should really mention are the series of Crysis games. I haven't played Crysis 1, but I have played Crysis 2 and Crysis 3. Crysis 2 I played on the PC, and Crysis 3 I played on the PS3. And I have to say that the PC version is graphically superior. I am really surprised to see what Crytek did graphically with the game on the PS3. It looks really good. It looks really good on the PS3. So that's really kind of like the last main series, like the last sort of series of games that I have. And a lot of the games I'm going to talk about now are sort of individual games that I have and not as part of a series. One of these games that I have great fun playing is Far Cry 3. Obviously playing it recently to get footage for this video, and it's such a great game, and you get so much value out of it. You have a massive open world single player campaign with really interesting characters, relatively interesting and substantial side missions as well, with a lot of variety. You have a lot of weapons and a lot of customization, and it's so fun to have that degree of customization in a single player first person shooter. The tropical island setting is so fun, and it's so great to kind of like see all these like animals like fighting each other and doing all these things, and the whole island being dynamic, and taking out pirate outposts and all those types of things. It's just so great it's so much fun to play, and I recommend that people get it because it's a really good game. And in addition to that, you have a great co-op campaign as well that you can play with 3 other people, and a really substantial, meaty, multiplayer as well. And it's a shame that people don't occupy the multiplayer portions of games like Far Cry 3 and Crysis 3. Because they're really good, and they offer something different and unique and interesting. And it's a shame that although people complain about games like Call of Duty, that they don't go out and explore games like this. Because they really do, they are worth every penny you pay. And it's a shame that games like those kind of get forgotten and ignored on occasion. But unfortunately, that's just what happens sometimes. Another game that I probably have to mention, it is literally a game. It's not even like an experience or anything as thematic as that. It is a game called Dragon Ball Raging Blast. I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. Not that much of a Dragon Ball GT fan, except just to laugh at it, really. Because it's so funny what they did with it, because they totally disrespected the original series. But oh well, I digress. And it's literally just something that I play with friends whenever they come round or when I go around their house. And it's just a fighting game. As you play as characters who can shoot energy from their hands, and you get to have fun and just like scream Kamehameha when you're like firing one at your friend. And my personal favorite character is Vegeta. I love Vegeta, and I love playing as Super Vegeta and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, because that's awesome, because you do that sacrifice thing where you blow yourself up, but it's done in the same thematic way as it does in the original series, which I love. I love how true it is to the actual series. And it's funny because my friend was talking to me about it, and he says like he prefers Dragon Ball Raging Blast to Raging Blast 2 because it's more true to the the original design of the anime, because it's not as many smooth edges as it has in Raging Blast 2. You have like the lines and everything, and it looks like the anime has come to life on my PS3, and it's great to have games based on cartoons and shows. That's anime, it's not a cartoon. It's great to see mediums like that kind of come out through the gaming industry as well, and it's so great. And Dragon Ball Z lends itself to some great games. It's just they're lucky to have that scenario. I'm trying to check if there are any other games I really should mention. There's games that are kind of like infamous amongst gamers right now. Well, gamers generally, and those main ones are GTA and Skyrim. I got Skyrim a few years ago, and I don't need to mention anything about Skyrim, because everyone knows what Skyrim is, hopefully. It's awesome. Massive open world, great story, you feel powered, or you feel empowered, sorry, and it's just awesome. That's all I have to say. GTA, everyone knows what GTA 5 is. Great single player, characters are interesting. It's just interesting and fun and dynamic, and it's the same thing with the multiplayer. I've never seen anyone, have the multiplayer experience be as true. It literally is your own story. It is literally you do whatever you want in the same massive open world that exists in the single player. And it's great that that game does that. And it's not the first GTA game I actually played, however. I think the only other GTA game I played was GTA Vice City on the PC. Oh, and I had fun with that. Oh, that was such a fun game. That was so fun. I remember just flying planes like on the road. It was so fun. It was so fun. So fun. But yeah, games like that I don't really need to mention. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is my history of gaming. And I have to say, it was very good. And I enjoyed every moment of it for the most part. But, the future of gaming is looking pretty bright for me personally. There are some things I'm a bit anxious of, but some things I'm also looking forward to generally as well. And I look forward to see what Sony does with the PS4. I look forward to see what future game developers, do with games in the future, generally. And I hope that, game developers will produce experiences as good, or hopefully better than the ones I've mentioned in this video. I just hope that happens, and, until I get a hold of a PS4, all I can do is hope that that's what they're gonna do. But anyway, thanks very much for watching this video, no matter how long you stayed here for, because it was a long video. I appreciate whether you stayed for just 1 minute, or for the whole 32 minutes, or whatever, however long this video lasted for. Thanks very much again, and I will be back with a video soon. Bye-bye.